Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Fairfield Township Butler County Community Improvement Corporation quarterly meeting. It's Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 7 p.m. First order of business, I'd like to make the motion to appoint Kim Lipinski, the clerk pro tem for the evening.
Second.
Mr. Goins?
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz? Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Ms. Harkemaier?
Yes.
Mr. McAbee?
Yes.
Mr. Stasser?
All right, so I guess we'll need to call the meeting, or take the roll officially.
Mr. Goins? Yes. Ms. Schultz? Mr. Birding?
Present.
Ms. Harkemaier?
Here.
Mr. McAbee?
Here.
This time, if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. First item is the minutes from the previous CIC meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Harkemaier?
Yes.
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Mr. McAbee?
Yes.
We have no new business for the evening. I do have some general updates that I'd like to notify the board about. Greg Philpott, who was a long-serving zoning commission member and also served on the CIC, has resigned from both of those boards due to he's moving to Florida, greener pastures. He wishes us the best. He served a lot of years on the zoning commission, and I personally appreciate all the work he's done. Just wanted to notify the board about that. In addition, one other piece of business, or one other update. There is some activity on one of the properties that we transferred to the neighborhood housing services, 2041 Milton Street. Construction started with that project for single-family home. They have the foundation complete, and they're moving forward with that. Across the street from that project, they've also started dividing the parcels and are in the process of reconsolidating them. So they'll have 3 parcels across the street. Other updates, upcoming meetings are scheduled for June 16th, September 8th, and December 8th, and those will all take place in advance of regularly scheduled trustee meetings.
I have a couple questions. First of all, Mr. Philpott resigning, and he was the president of that board, so he sat on this board. Has someone been named the president of that zoning commission?
Not yet, no. We have a president for the board, but we haven't appointed them with the zoning commission to this board. I don't know if that's something they need to do formally, or if we can do that
I think
here.
we appoint him to this board, correct?
Okay, so that would be Jason Osterman. So yeah, we can make that motion tonight to appoint him to serve as the zoning commission representative.
Okay, I move to appoint Jason Osterman, serving board president of the planning board, zoning commission, to the CIC board.
I'll second that.
Second.
Take a roll, please.
Mr. McAbee?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Ms. Harkemaier?
Yes.
The other question I have, I'm sorry, did you say the date of the next CIC is June the 16th?
June 16th, yeah.
Is that, I thought our trustee meeting was the 9th.
Did we move that meeting?
We were going to move the meeting,
were
but we didn't
talking
have that
about it.
discussion
Oh,
yet.
that's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
We're hoping to move the meeting because that was part of our trustee meeting tonight, to discuss moving that June meeting.
Well, we'll move that meeting, the June meeting, to coincide with the June meeting for the trustees.
Okay.
Public comments? I don't believe so. More comments? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:06.
Second?
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Harkemeyer?
Yes.
Mr. McAbey?
Yes.
It's adjourned. Over the line and the meeting hasn't even started yet. I forgot where it was for a minute. Yeah, that's right.
Good evening. Today is still Tuesday, April 14th, 2026, at 7:06 PM. I now call the Fairfield Township Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to Chuck Goins be our clerk pro tem for this evening. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. That motion passes. Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding,
Present?
Trustee Harkemeyer,
Here.
Trustee McAbey.
Here. Okay, well, we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, so let's just move right into presentations for the sake of time. Ms. LaPensi?
I would like to bring up Patricia. She's going to give us a small presentation for the upcoming levy for the Butler County Developmental Disabilities.
Thank you so much. To transition slides, do I just indicate or
You
is
just
there?
tell me and I'll-
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I have been just going throughout our community, throughout Butler County, and explaining who we are as a board, the Butler County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And then we do have a levy on the ballot, and so I just wanted to give some information about that and answer any questions that anybody has. So, to start with, you can see here some statistics about us. I'm not going to dive all the way into that, but what I want to point out is our mission statement. That is actively partnering with people to access the world. On its face, that doesn't sound all that profound until you start to understand the history of where we came from. So prior to the 50s, people that had children with developmental disabilities, they really had two options. They could keep their child home with them and do the best for them that they could with limited resources, or what the state offered was that they could send their child to an institution where they would be raised isolated from their family, from their community, from those who love them. So in the 50s, families started to demand better. And what that ultimately turned into was the county board system that we have today. And there's been, several iterations of that. But in the 60s, that is ultimately what came from that. So again, when you go back to looking at actively partnering with people to access the world, that starts to feel really profound, because now we are working hard to keep people in their communities, in their families, in their homes where they belong. So there's some good information here on these statistics, but I'm not going to spend time on that. A developmental disability is one that occurs before the age of 22, and it's a combination of, or it is an intellectual disability or a physical disability or a combination of both, and it is likely to remain for the person's entire life. Some that you might be familiar with are Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism. There are certainly more than those, but I like to bring that up because you can probably think about somebody in your own world, in your own community that fits this mold and could be supported by us. We operate on a person-centered philosophy, which means that what works for you works for you. That's important fiscally because that means that the type of support we provide is tailored specifically to you, and there's not going to be waste then in providing all these supports that aren't necessarily beneficial for that person. But it also matters on the person's level, and sometimes that's as simple as finding a job that seems to be a good fit for you, and sometimes it's as grandiose as the story of Ray and Vicky. So Ray and Vicky, they knew each other earlier in life, and then later on they reconnected, and they fell in love, and they decided they wanted to get married. So our staff worked closely with the direct care support that they received every day, and together as a team they went and took Ray ring shopping and took Vicky wedding dress shopping. The officiant here at this commitment ceremony, he is the director of the day program where they spent their days. So it's just a really amazing example of what that person-centered philosophy can look like. Our supports are throughout a lifetime, beginning at the early intervention stage, that's 0 to 3. Those are our direct supports. So, and that's the only instance throughout the lifetime where the type of support we provide is direct care. And what that looks like is physical therapists, developmental specialists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. The thing that's really neat about the support for the early intervention age is that it is a coaching model of care. So that means when our staff is in there, they're working directly with the child, but they're also specifically working with the parents and the caregivers to help give tools and tips and help them to understand how to maintain that therapy after the visit ends. It's a really powerful method. Actually, the most conservative figure I've seen is that for every dollar spent in early intervention, at least $7 and sometimes up to $30 in savings is realized into adulthood. So it's, you can see how absolutely essential this is while they're still in that, they're still so young and malleable. The type of support we're able to provide there provides lifelong changes for that individual. After age 3, a lot of that direct support then moves into the school system, and the type of support we provide is service and support administration that really starts to ramp up once a person is getting close to graduation, and then they're looking for, you know, what they're going to do with the rest of their lives, and that's where we come in and really support them a lot. They are our initial and primary point of contact with the person served. And they identify the types of services a person could receive, connect them to funding streams, and then also just ask that question, what does this person want with their life and what can we do to help them connect to that? So we can move to the next slide. A large portion of what our SSAs do is connect individuals with waivers. So again, prior to the 50s, people could live in a state institution. The funding for that now, you can waive your right to live in an institution and you can receive that waiver, and that's what the funding for that is what you're accessing in order to live in your community. So that includes funding for transportation, employment supports, home delivered meals, homemaker personal care, which is a person coming into your home and providing that direct support you might need, and so much more. Really, you can think about it's a wraparound support so that a person can successfully, safely, and fully live in their community. That is funded, 60% of that is funded federally, and then 40% comes from your local tax dollars through levies that we passed in 2000 and then in 2004. So again, 60% of that waiver is a federal, is provided federally, and then 40% is provided with local levy tax dollars. You can see from this chart, when we last passed our levy in 2004, 250 people were enrolled in waiver supports. By 2024, that number had risen to 1,200. So we've had some dramatic increases in the amount of people that we're supporting with that type of funding. It's also important to note that we do not have inside millage, so the amount of revenue we receive is the same amount we received back in 2004 and back in 2000. It's based off of the value of your home from that time. And it's also important to note that our projected expense for 2026 consumes 97.5% of our levy-funded revenues, which is significant. And I'll get into more of that levy-specific information in a bit. I just want to draw some attention to some other important things that we've done in the community. We've partnered with some really great institutions and organizations, including Metro Parks and Travel Butler County, providing tools like what you see here, which is like a social story to help a person be able to engage and experience their community. Travel Butler County actually came to us with that idea, and we worked together and created different social stories like this for different locations throughout Butler County. And then Metro Parks also has been working on their accessibility, and we've been a key part of that. So we're really grateful for a lot of really wonderful community organizations. We are an employment first state, which means that when and where we can, we are going to connect people with jobs. This is so important because it creates independence. It creates the opportunity for them to be able to earn their own living and do something meaningful with their day. But it also truly benefits our community. We have heard from so many of our employers, or from the employers that we connect people with, that the people we've connected them with are some of their most loyal, dedicated employees, that they can really count on them day day in and day out to work hard and to be there every single day. These are just a few of the many employers that we have connected with throughout Butler County. We have over 450 people with developmental disabilities employed in over 200 locations. And the types of jobs spans from, McDonald's or a bagger at Kroger's to we have a lot of people working at ThyssenKrupp Bilstein, which is a very specific skilled job. So it runs the gamut. We are also a technology-first state, which again means when and where we can, we're going to use technology to provide supports. This is great because it enhances independence, and it's also a massive cost saver. So for these two women here on the left, prior to this, they lived together and they had a person coming in every single day and providing some supports and just some general care. But really, they didn't need that much support. That's costly and it inhibits their independence. So now instead, they're able to use technology to monitor them. There's technology on the door. If somebody comes to the door, somebody can help them, deal with that conversation. There might be a sensor on the stove. If the stove is left on too long, then it can turn off. Things like that can improve independence, but doesn't, require an actual person there with them. We are also the Adult Protective Services Agency for people with developmental disabilities. This is a highly vulnerable population, so anytime there's an instance of abuse or neglect or anything like that, we work with law enforcement to help resolve that, and that's a mandated service that we provide. We also have so many wonderful community organizations. I kind of touched on this earlier with Metro Parks and Travel Butler County, but these are some that we work with a lot more closely, where it's more of a wraparound support. So Family Children Services, mental health. A lot of people actually misunderstand and think that we are the Board of Mental Health. We are completely separate. Again, a developmental disability occurs before the age of 22. It's likely to last a lifetime. There is definitely some crossover. We have people that we support that also would qualify for their supports and vice versa. And we work together pretty, closely on all that. We provide funding for accessible housing through inclusive housing resources. Butler County Children's Services, Help Me Grow. That's another one. People think when we're in their homes at 0 to 3 that Help Me Grow is in their homes. Help Me Grow connects people to our services, and then our staff are out there working directly in the home. And then, of course, Butler Tech. They are wonderful partners of ours with Project Life and Project Search and just so many other ways as well. So again, your tax dollars are specifically providing this support. This is a breakdown of our 2025 revenues and expenditures. You can see our expenditures were significantly above our revenues in 2025. We did have carryover balance, so that's why that was able to, get us through. But it's also important to note that the deep purple in this top one, that's our local revenues. That's 83% of our budget. Or of our revenues, I should say. And again, 97.5% of that 83% will be consumed by our waiver obligations. We already touched on this. This is exactly what we had just seen. I just like to show it again because now you have a snapshot of our revenues and expenditures. So due to that, due to the fact that our expenses are certainly exceeding our revenues, in September of 2025, our board declared a fiscal emergency. Immediately, we started to put in quite a few cost-saving measures. Those included pauses on all raises and increases. We reduced our working hours, which then turned into about a 7% reduction for staff. We have paused all promotions, all vacancies, and then as a last-ditch effort, we did have to cut some of the supports that we're providing to individuals. We actually, to date, that is $3.7 million in savings, but another 2 cost savings phases have since been enacted. So I don't have a better number to provide, but this is what we have done so far, and moving forward, there will be more cost savings. And a lot of those, I should add, are our board and our leadership had to think very strategically about the types of cuts to enact. Very few of those did they find there was, excess fat. It was just a fact that our revenue is not keeping up with our expenses, and so now we're having to cut things that we actually think are critical. So this brings us to the levy request that we have on the ballot. Again, without any additional revenues, there is no other solution. We've cut everything possible. And so then the next thing would be to add additional revenue. That's why we've placed a 2 mil new continuing levy on the May ballot that would generate $26,447,000. For a house that is valued at $100,000, that would be $70 a year or $583 a month. And then this also shows you what we currently collect. So you can see that currently on our current 3 mills, we're collecting $4.43, and then 53 annually. That also is a great demonstration of the fact that inside millage does not allow our value to grow. So we're, for all intents and purposes, we're collecting less than 50 cents on the dollar based off of those previous levies. So thank you all so much for, allowing me to come up here and explain who we are, what we're doing this May. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions from the board? I do have a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So you said that 60% of your funding comes federally, 40% locally. So when a provider provides a service to a family, the provider then bills the county and bills the federal government, or you're talking about the federal government money comes in and then you pay it out of that?
It's kind of convoluted, and I might be answering this incorrectly, but when a provider provides a service, they bill the state. The state receives federal money, and they pay that, and then they also invoice us for the 40% match, and then we pay that. So the money is coming through the state, but it's from federal and local, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the 40% is what this $26 million is to cover.
Yeah, and our operations as well. But yes, it's directly because of our waiver obligation.
And so I'm sorry, Ms. Lepensky, could you pull up the slide that had their budget numbers on it again?
It's
I think it was
15.
11. Oh, yeah, 15. I'm sorry.
The back, it was like the fourth one or something.
Yeah. Okay, so your revenues were 20, so your revenues are 28, and that's just the county level revenues.
Yeah, you can see. So we have the 83% is through our levies,
Okay.
and then I think there is also like a couple of like random things, some windfalls, things like that.
17% would not be coming from this. You're still going to be getting that from the federal.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's 24 million, then you would be getting another 26 million.
Right.
So you'd have $50 million annually, local dollars. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. And your expenditures are 37 million. Okay. The other question, thank you for that. The other question I have is when the clients go through Project Life and Project Search and they're out employed, some of the income that they make, does that offset some of their services they get, or that's just money for them to have?
In the same way that, like, back to that person-centered philosophy, if a person doesn't have a need, if they can fund and come up with their own transportation, we're not going to support transportation. So in that, when their needs reduce, then like the type of support we're providing could reduce, then you would see that. But there is no, like, we're not measuring their income and then making sure, like, you know what I mean? It's not a specific balance. It's a balance in terms of that person-centered philosophy of care.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm still confused about the 60/40. I see the federal revenues is 4.8 million.
So this is the revenue the board receives. If you could, I think it's one slide next. Yes, okay. this is specifically about the waivers. So we provide supports outside of the waivers, early intervention, for instance, and that's where you're seeing that change in like how much we're asking versus how much we're spending on waivers. But the funding that supports that waiver, 60% of that funding is provided federally, and then 40% is provided locally. So that previous slide demonstrated our revenue, the board's revenue, not how the waiver match is funded.
And I can't quite see the numbers on the far left corner there. The waiver expense, is that 20-some million? Is that what that is?
Yeah, and
22 or 23 million?
I don't have the specific number right here, but yeah, basically the revenues that we will be receiving from our property tax levies that we currently have from 2000 and 2004 is the blue bar. And then the red bar is our projected waiver expense. That consumes 97.5% of that.
So how much federal money do you actually receive? Do you know?
If you want to, sorry, pop back to that other slide. And I apologize. I wish I could speak with more education to this, but in 2025, we received about 5 million from federal dollars, and I don't have the answer on like what the story is for that. I'm happy to get that information and come back to you, but
Still confused? Do you see the confusion?
yeah.
So of the,
But that's not 60% of anything on that
right.
chart.
So I think, well, I asked a question earlier, and the question was the 60-40 split. The 40%, so when a provider provides a service, they bill the state.
Yeah.
And the state takes 40% of that bill, they pull that from their revenue. The other 60% they pull from the federal government to pay the supplier. The provider.
So that never shows up as revenue for
It
us.
never shows up on that chart.
Right, because that stays at the state level. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So we receive an invoice for that 40%. So it shows up as expenses for us, but the 60% would never show up as revenue for us. So that's handled at the state level.
So if you added the two together, as far as the total cost of your operation, what would that number be?
I have no idea. You're saying if we added that 60% from the federal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, again, because that is not a part of our balance sheet. It's never a part of our.
Never shows on that chart.
So probably
Yeah.
roundabout numbers, and I'm sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. 60% of the 38 million?
Well, the 38 million would be the 40%, and then the feds kick in probably another 60 million, because 37 would be roughly 40% of the expense, and another
So
60% would be
about $100 million.
for services. That's what I'm guessing by the numbers. Which is a typical like school district, Fairfield School District, $100 million budget, serving 10,000 students. That's what I'm judging it on.
It also, again, the fact that we provide support throughout a lifetime means that we could be providing a support for person. I know, like, every year you're seeing, this is a snapshot of a year, but we could be supporting a person for 80, 90 years. And people, this is great. People are certainly living longer and longer. Medicine has improved a lot, so we are seeing longer and longer lifespans.
But as the total cost for those services go up, the federal tax dollars are paying 60% of it.
Yes, yeah. And it's also, I think, nice to note, that's how, again, back in the 50s, parents demanded better. The county board system came to be. Most states do not have a county board system, so federally, that money is provided to every state. How they operate with it looks quite a bit different state to state. So that very localized method of connecting people with supports is pretty unique to Ohio.
And you guys are probably audited every year, every other year?
It's every 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah. And we have received, like, for the past several years, I've been with the board, going on 8 years, and every year that we've received an audit that I've been with the board, we've received, like, full credit, or, you know what I'm saying? I'm not using the right language, but no findings, basically.
Any other questions from the board? Comments?
It sounds like if it doesn't pass, there are going to be some drastic cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there hasn't been anything officially approved by our board, but early intervention, for instance, is not a mandated support. So that is a massive department. It involves quite a bit of funding, and it's not protected in a mandated way. So.
Well, thank you very much for coming this evening. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
No need to stay for the entire meeting.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Okay, the next presentation we have, Ms. LaPensi.
We have a proclamation celebrating April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day. I think
It's right there. So we had a resident reach out to us asking for this proclamation. So it just says, proclamation honoring National Therapy Animal Day. There are thousands of pet partners, therapy animals, serving in communities across the United States. And whereas Pet Partners has designated April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, and whereas scientific research shows that interacting with therapy animals can reduce stress, relieve depression, slow heart rate, lower blood pressure, and strengthen the immune system. And whereas therapy animal teams in Fairfield Township play an essential role in improving human health and well-being throughout the human-animal bond. And whereas therapy animal teams interact with a variety of people in our community, including veterans, seniors, patients, students, and those approaching end of life. And whereas these exceptional therapy animals who partner with their human companions bring comfort and healing to those in need. And whereas we encourage more pet owners to consider becoming pet partners, volunteers, to help our community by creating greater access to meaningful therapy animal visits. Therefore, be it resolved that in observance of National Therapy Animal Day, we, Michael Birding, Shannon Harkemeyer, and Joe Maccabee, Township Trustees, proudly proclaim the 30th of April, 2026 as National Therapy Animal Day in Fairfield Township, Ohio. And we all signed it. Can you present this? Okay, the next item on our agenda are items for board discussion. Ms. LaPensi?
All right, at our last meeting, we had a resident that spoke about a traffic light at Princeton and Gilmore Road. She had said that it's a very difficult time to make a left-hand turn, Gilmore onto Princeton Road, turning towards the east. So we contacted the county engineer's office. They came out to look at it. In their opinion, it's a little slow, but nothing concerning to them. But they did say that they had been awarded a signal upgrade grant from OKI, and that they are willing to give us that grant to use to upgrade the intersection. However, it's not available until late 2027, early 2028. So we can either wait until that time to use their upgrade, or if we choose to do something in an earlier fashion, it would cost us around $10,000 to upgrade that traffic light.
How much is the grant for?
It would cost us zero.
Would cover the whole thing?
Yeah, it would
right?
cover the whole thing.
And so that would be fiscal year 27, 28, so it's a year from this July, basically?
Or they're on a federal fiscal year, right?
But it wouldn't be in 26.
Right. So it's up to you guys what you guys want to do. If you want me to tell the county engineer's office to hold it for us, or not, or,
I'd be in favor of holding it for us if they would.
Yeah.
okay.
Hold a spot. They didn't do any counts or anything? They just went out there and,
They just went out there and just
One,
watched the light.
two.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then the other coffee shop comes in there, it's only going to get worse.
The coffee
So,
shop's not
that'll-
going to be connected to that.
Yeah, it'll be on the other
On the other
side.
side by Home Depot.
Yeah.
It'll
They'll
be
come
connected
in.
to like
The new
tire-
coffee shop,
It's coming on, was that Winford?
it
Yeah,
comes
so
off
it'll be
Winford.
off Winford,
it's going in between? I thought it was going on the back side of the church.
on the
But
front
They don't have
side.
access to that road, they'll have access
Oh, okay.
to Winford. Well, to the street that connects to Winford.
Right, right
They're
next to
not
Big O
coming out in the
Tires.
cul-de-sac?
No,
Oh, okay.
unless they're walking.
I'd be
And then we
careful.
don't get traffic.
I'd be careful for that, too.
But to your point, once that area develops behind it, it will probably become more of a necessity.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, next item.
Snow and ice removal policy and guidelines. So over the wintertime, we had the large snow event, and we had some confusion on our mailbox policy reimbursement. We had one thing posted on our website, and then we had another thing, another level that we were practicing. And so because we do not have a policy in place, we thought it might be a good time to adopt a snow and ice removal policy and guidelines and maybe talk more in depth about doing snow emergency and basically asking people to move off the streets so that we can remove the snow from the streets to get around better. There was a policy that was developed back in 2014. I don't know if you guys had ever seen it, but it's been developed and we thought we could start with that and revisit it. Obviously, there's some things in here that need to be updated, but basically it just talks about the general wear and tear on our vehicles, how we're going to put down snow,
Put down salt.
yeah, put down salt, sorry, put down
Please don't
salt.
put down snow, Jeff.
Yeah, put down snow.
I thought
Basically
that's what he was doing, driving along spreading snow, yeah.
He might have, I don't know. So it basically talks about, how we're going to attack the snow emergency and basically this safety and equipment. And that talks about, when they have snow flurries, if we have sleet and ice, if we have 1 or more inches of snowfall accumulation, icing problems, how we're going to clean up. But basically, it's just, it also addresses mailboxes and damage to parked cars and miscellaneous items. So I thought for the future, maybe if you could think about it and let me know if it's something we can move forward with in the future, at least discussing it, or the possibility of discussing it, and maybe setting us on the right course of what should our mailbox policy be? What does that look like to you guys? What do you want us to do about that?
I think we definitely need to move forward with this, and I'd like to hear some proposals specifically on what your best expert opinions are
Okay.
on that mailbox policy and what you would recommend for that.
Okay.
And then if there's anything in addition to what's in here, is this the recommendations or, because clearly we can go through this and look at it, but,
Yeah, I think we want to, did we ever find a Word version of it? No? All right. I guess we'll just have to figure that out. Can you let us go through this one more time and then put our heads together and then we'll present something to you guys when we have a slower agenda and then we can talk about it more and hopefully get something going before, the next snow
Before
season
November.
comes. Yeah.
This isn't a policy issue, but from a liability standpoint, the law requires a homeowner or a car owner to use their own insurance to cover their damages
Okay.
before the township would.
Okay.
You obviously could adopt a policy different from that, but that's what the law is.
Okay.
and to that point, I would like you, once the staff goes through this, if you want to take a look at that, either, in conjunction or afterwards, just to make sure that there aren't any legal implications. I just want to make sure we get holy and wholesome with that.
Sure, we will.
I guess maybe if you could look at, Ms. LaPensi, other communities around us, what their policy is on mailboxes, how they compare with like snow emergencies, if there's certain level 2 snow emergency, if there's a certain amount of fleet that they put out, like things like that. Maybe
Okay.
that'd be helpful.
Okay.
We've had that conversation about cul-de-sacs and where the cars go. We have a lot of cul-de-sacs, we have a lot of cars, and it would be impossible to get them off the street unless they pull in their own front yard, which is not going to happen. So we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about, ordering somebody to get their car off the street.
Well, and I think this also goes into play with what we talked about earlier last year, I believe, about parking policies and maybe having in some areas, it might make sense to have people park on one side of the street versus both sides of the street, especially if it's a tighter, where the traveling surface isn't as wide as it is somewhere else. So, all right. We will do that.
Okay, next item.
Princeton Road debt payoff. I think we can probably wait until after the levies to discuss it further, but if we are going to put some capital items on hold, then I would like permission to go ahead and pay off our Princeton Road debt. If we go ahead and pay it off, it would cost us $560,000 in principal. And we would save about $10,000, or I'm sorry, we would cost $9,775 in interest this year as a payment, and then we would save $18,325 in the second half of 2026 going into 2027. So there's no pre-penalty payment.
No pre-penalty payment, okay.
Yeah, we already checked. But they do need a 30-day notice, and our first payment is due on June 1st, so that's why I'm bringing it up now. Because with a 30-day notice, we'll have time to make the payment by June. So 'cause we have to send them a letter and ask them to pay it off, and they have to do some things to get back to us.
And if we don't move it up, we pay it off at the end of the year?
Yeah, we could do that too.
I mean, that's what it's scheduled to do, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's scheduled to be paid off the end of next year, but I would just rather just go ahead and pay it
We
off
have
now.
4
and be
more
done with it.
payments.
Yeah. But that's food for thought.
I'm sorry, if the June 1st is the payment date, we would have to decide by May 1st.
May 1st, yes.
We don't have another meeting until, right?
So what is the balance now? What is the,
$560,000 in principal, and then whatever interest we've accrued until the day we pay it. So if it's a June 1st date, the interest accrued is that $9,775 number. So we would owe the 560 plus the 9,975.
and how much is our June payment?
It is,
A fourth of that plus
yeah,
interest?
a half, yeah. 250,000,
Half
something
of
like
it?
that, yeah. 325, 175,
Our balance is,
560.
you're saying we have 4 more payments.
Right. I have I think the schedule is attached to the resolution. Matter of fact,
We have that money invested now, don't we?
so for 2026, the principal payment's 275. The interest payment is 19,550. For 2027, it looks like the principal balance is 285. And then 2027, the interest would be $8,550.
So that's what we would say, the 8,000.
Plus the other half of this year if we pay it off in June.
And those numbers you just read, that's for the year. So are we making 2 payments a year?
Yeah, there's a payment in June and a payment in December. I completely understand if you don't want to do it. I mean, it's really not that much interest, but in my mind, it's just one thing left, like, we get it off the books and it's done. Especially if we need to use TIF money for other purposes.
And so what's the net cost to us? If we've got that money invested, what are we getting 4% on it?
No, we're only making 2.95%.
So it would be in our interest to pay it off early since it's going to save us money, right? I mean,
But the only other question I have is what's that going to do to our cash flow? I don't know if we want to keep that money on hand because we might need it for something. That would be the concern that I have, is if we use all of that, it's gone, and we need it for something else.
True.
And that would be, I'd want to get some more information about that.
But we're going to spend half of it this year anyway.
Yes. Yeah, we'll at least pay that 300 and, we'll at least pay 275,000 this year.
So I'd say go ahead and pay it off. I mean, we have the money in the TIF account, right?
Yes. That was my thought process. If we're not going to spend it on any capital items, we're going to hold it, then why not just go ahead and pay it off and be done with it?
Do we have our first settlement, tax settlement yet?
We got the notification that the county was going to deposit it in our account. It just has not hit our account yet. We're hoping tomorrow.
I'd be in favor, go ahead and send them that letter, since this is our last meeting before that.
I mean, I tend to agree to Trustee McAbey. I think it's going to save us close to
$18,000.
$18,000 in interest payments over the course of a year and a half. I mean, and I realize, and true, that's only keeping $285,000 in the bank
Right.
as emergency fund. And it's money that we have to spend anyway.
Right. So I was just thinking any way to save us any little bit amount of money.
Right.
That's one
No,
way.
and I definitely, I understand Trustee Harkemeyer's point as well, like, was it due to our cash flow, but I would also assume to pay it. I mean, we're looking to save money in every single way, shape, or form. I think that we should take advantage of the opportunity to save close to $20,000 in interest by paying it off early. So I know that I understand your concern, Trustee Harkemeyer.
No, it's, yeah, I'm not,
But-
that's not a huge concern that I
Yeah.
have. It's just something I wanted to
I
surface.
think it's something that we've always wanted to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
It's our cash balance.
You want to make a motion then?
Well, I think it's on our
It's on the
agenda
agenda.
later.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. The next item.
All right, at the last meeting, we kind of touched on potential budget cuts for the township if the levies were not to go to the pass. So Chuck and I have been working with the department heads on items that we could do. So obviously, the first and foremost thing that we could do is increase our revenue in different ways. And in some of the sheets that I provided you with all the different departments, there's different ways broken down of all the different revenue sources. I know for administration, we talked about increasing a lot of our fees, like our zoning application fees, inspection fees, fees for driveways. We talked about increasing credit card processing fees, maybe possibly renegotiating some of our JED districts, increasing our JED districts, increase transient vendor permit fees, maybe charge a rental fee for shelters and meeting rooms, baseball field fees. We could start charging select teams for using our fields because right now they get to use the fields for free and we provide everything to them at no cost. Possibly doing assessments for landscaping and street maintenance through the JED districts, like along Princeton Road. And then just some other wacky ideas we came up with is maybe some intergovernmental agreements that maybe we, help with code enforcement for another entity, that's close by us. Let's see. Under the reductions, obviously, we've been not hiring people as they leave. We currently have 3 open positions in the fire department, which saves us about $330,000 annually. There's also a couple unfilled positions in the police department. We could, under overtime controls, we could cap or eliminate overtime per department. We could suspend all non-essential travel overtime, limit special assignments, encourage flexing time when possible. Under staffing realignment, we could go to maybe cutting days of the week. We thought maybe here we could do like 9-hour days, 4 days a week, and at least that would shut the building down for one day. It would save employment costs, it would save electricity, which would also reduce all of our salaries down to that 9-hour, 36 hours a week. reduce minimum staffings across the fire department, police department, service department. We could consolidate job responsibilities, either consolidate administrative responsibilities to one location, or take administrative positions and move them to other supervisors. We could reduce benefits. There's a whole host of benefits that we could reduce, which has to do with health insurance, our vacation policy, our sick leave policy, our overtime policy. We have longevity pay, we have cell phone reimbursements, we have take-home vehicles. Under capital deferrals, we've deferred pretty much all of our capital purchases. We could also evaluate our fleets and look at how many trucks, cars that we don't need in our fleets anymore. Under discretionary spending, we could look at travel and conferences, and mandated trainings would be the only thing that our employees would attend. Further reductions to supply and contract expenditures, we could look at all of our contracts. We've tried going through the last year and looking at all our contracts and seeing, where we could see savings for that, but maybe we just need to look a little further. Other things we could do is do energy audits of each building, making sure our buildings are the most efficient. Obviously, we have older buildings, so the older buildings are not going to be efficient, so they would obviously need the most work, but then that's also money that we would have to put into the buildings. Reduce contracted maintenance, consolidate the usage of buildings. Say that we have employees that we're going to consolidate if we're going to not have as many people in one location, maybe you consolidate the building spaces into one space, and then maybe you sell off other buildings. More cuts to contracted services like uniform expenses, laundry expenses, building cleaning, building maintenance. And then it kind of goes into each different department on ways that each department could reduce. So we can talk about it more. Those are just some of the ideas that we all came up with when we all talked to each other. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions, comments?
Well, regardless of the levy, I think there's some good ideas in there that we should look into.
Okay.
And we know we need to cut $6-8 million, right?
We're about $3 million over in the fire and about $1.6 million over in the police department. So eventually we will have to cut that.
So these will all be items that, depending on, I think Trustee Harkemeyer said that we should probably address some of them anyway, regardless of what happens in May.
Okay.
But I guess maybe at our May meeting, we should go into more detail
Okay.
based on what happens on the first Tuesday.
All right, we have provided some matrix in the back, so if you go to each individual department, it kind of gives you here's what a 5% cut would look like, here's what a 10% cut looks like, 15, 20, and 25. And you can see, like, when we get down to 15%, that's when we start having to cut personnel.
Right.
Because that's really the only thing left. There's not much, I mean, we've gone through everything we can think of last year, and this is what we have left.
And we really need to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 25%, don't we?
Most likely.
I know you don't want to say it, but that's the facts.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. We move into communication. We have the sign up.
And while she's getting that sheet, just to follow up on that, I think we need to be ready to make those cuts
In
in the
May.
May meeting if it doesn't go our way.
Yeah,
And make them effective right away. I'm actually in favor of eliminating overtime today, going forward. We're still spending a lot of money on overtime, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I think maybe our best course of action is to give the administrator control over overtime. There may be instances where it's absolutely 100% needed, and she's here every day, she could approve that or decline it? Do you think that's something that would be better than all overtime? Because
Sure.
there might be, okay, this has to happen.
Sure.
So just give her the authority to approve overtime expenditures within all the departments,
Go along with that.
okay?
There are different, also in this, it also talks about all the different policy changes that we need to make in our personnel manual to make a lot of this stuff happen. So we can bring that back and have it ready for you at the May meeting.
Okay.
If that's what you guys want.
Great. Okay, good point, Trustee McAbey. Okay, communication. This is the portion of the meeting where you, the residents of Fairfield Township, are invited to share your thoughts with the board. Please know that this time has been set aside from the board to listen to you. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time, and presentations are limited to 3 minutes each. We have one person sign up tonight, and it's Mr. Paul Yeckel. If you come to the podium and state your name and address for record.
Paul Yeckel, 7856 Bridgewater Lane. 3 weeks from tonight, we're going to start knowing the results of the fire levy and the police levy. Of course, the developmental disabilities levy, the speaker that was here, that's going to pass because countywide, that's about the only thing on the ballot. So I do not see a scenario where that does not pass. I don't know if it'll pass in Fairfield Township, but it will pass countywide. I don't have any doubts about that. So right away, going in, we're looking at everybody paying 2 mills. And it was broken down tonight, and you could multiply those figures by 3 because the average house in Fairfield Township is not 100,000. It's closer to 300,000. But that's going to pass. We have the fire levy and the police levy. And I've been at this podium in years past saying that the discussion about the fire and police should have taken place earlier. That's my opinion. I'm not the trustee. I'm not the administrator. It should have happened earlier. I know things like, I know that there's been a bias on the board, and this goes back to, I've lived here 20 years. Whoever was on the board has always wanted to stretch the levy. We want to stretch the dollars. We want to see how long we could take it. But then you get to a point where, okay, we can't do it anymore. And then it gets to a point where the amounts are like, whoa. And the argument is, well, hey, they lasted 17 years, so you shouldn't be complaining that your property tax is going to double. If you moved here 3 years ago, that doesn't impress you. If you lived here 20 years, that you have a little bit more of a longitudinal aspect. Okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I get it, I understand. And you have fire and police. And then the school district rolls up with a 1.25% earned income tax credit. Mr. Berger and Captain Lanier have done an outstanding job of making the case for their departments. If it was based on the integrity of the fire department, the police department, this should pass overwhelmingly. Mr. Bennett, at some point, probably is good. We're going to need more money for the work that Mr. Bennett does in his department. And it's the same thing. We think about township, we're thinking about a 3-legged stool: fire, police, and roads, and administrative, which rounds out the total. But I'm here to tell you, if this is going to pass in any form, I think what needs to happen is we need to hear from the people. We didn't elect these gentlemen. We elected the trustees. And I don't know if there's been any urgency from the administration on this. I'm hearing from the captains. I'm hearing from the chiefs. But last year, we were told, well, we don't need to go for a fire levy. We don't need to go for a police levy. And I understand the culture of this township. People, they'll fight over a $5 car increase. I understand that. But now you're backed into a corner. I think this is a coin flip. I think it could go either way on both. They both could pass, they both could fail. I pray that both of them pass. I pray that they get the money. And I hope that we don't have these cuts. But I think in the 3 weeks that are remaining, I would ask Mr. Birding, Ms. Harkmeyer, Mr. McAbee, and I don't know how this does with the administrator, to really make the case for both of them, because right now I think they're fractured, and I think that we're getting this thing where the police are competing against the fire and people are having to choose, which is ridiculous. I would have preferred a unified levy, but that's what we got. So I'll just close by saying that you have 3 weeks. I think a lot of people, quite honestly, have made up their mind, and it has nothing to do with valuing fire police services. It has to do with the amounts. It has to do with the fact that the school district has come up with a ridiculous earned income tax, which I don't know. I mean, it's definitely hurting the fire and police attempts. It really is. So I just hope you take that on an advisement, and I hope the fire and police get the money that they need and require. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeckel. I don't believe it's legally feasible for us to promote or not promote a levy from the dais.
That is correct.
So we can't really comment on pro or against. All we can do is present the figures.
That is
I
exactly
know that
right.
what we do in our private lives, I know the chiefs understand where the three trustees lie, and we've given them support or what have you, but we have not done anything publicly because we're not really allowed to legally.
That is absolutely correct.
But I mean, we presented the case as far as what we need to survive.
You can present facts, you can present numbers, you can present the state of the township, but you're not allowed to use the township facilities to go out and promote the levy necessarily.
Right.
But you're certainly allowed to give factual information.
Right. Thank you. I just want to clarify that.
Do we have any responsibility to know what is being printed and passed out?
If it's not on township stationery or township materials, I don't think the township is responsible for it. I mean, if someone else totally unassociated with the township is printing something, then no, I don't think the township is responsible for that.
I've had a couple of people that weren't happy with some of the literature they received, and of course, I have seen none of it, so it was like, okay, what's my responsibility here?
Well, the prohibition is against the township actively campaigning or using their facilities or materials to promote the levy. You have no control over what people out in the, residents are going to say, or, and there's no prohibition against residents supporting it or being against it. That's
And we don't have an
speech.
obligation to verify the facts that are being put out?
No, they have freedom of speech. I don't think you can stop them from, even if their facts are wrong, I don't think you can stop people from exercising their fundamental First Amendment right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, sure. Could you, if you come up and just state your name, will you jot down his name and address as he speaks? So, please, name and address for the record, please.
My name's Tom Barline. The address is 3960 Tree Sand Drive. And the main reason I came was about the levies that are up. It's going to hit me about $1,600, which is about 25% increase if all three pass. I don't have a real problem with that if I felt like it would fix the problem. So I know you run about a $2.5 million deficit. How much does that bring in if both of those passed for the fire department and the police? Is that
3.4 million for the police, or for the fire department, and 2.4 million for police and 3.6 for fire.
so that would eliminate the,
It would eliminate both deficits, but it's only projected to last about 5 years.
okay, but the township wouldn't be coming back and asking for money in the fall?
No, not in the fall, but in another 5 years, we would take another look at it, because obviously, we're going to start to where the expenditures will exceed revenues again, and then we'll be in the same position. But hopefully that period, if it passes this time, then it's only a small amount, an increase that you ask for instead of a large.
Yeah, because it's hitting everything at once.
Yeah.
I'm the treasurer for the HOA, and I try to look ahead and keep it small so it doesn't slam you all at once. With end up being the school district's hitting it too now, and it hits everybody at once. So fortunately, I'm retired, and that one's not going to hurt me. But I can imagine it's going to hit the average person in the township for $1,500 if all three of those pass, plus the school levy. So I know I think it's going to be a tough sell, but unfortunately. But I just wanted to understand if I vote for it, if it takes care of the problem at least for a long time, and I ain't coming back in November and asking for more.
If they pass, then we'll receive the money. We'll start to receive the first increased money in about a year.
Yeah, I know there's a
Yeah.
pretty big lag there, but
So we're running in the red pretty well.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wanted to speak? Great, okay. We will move on to the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any trustee may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. No second is required for the removal of an item. Items removed for separate discussions will be considered after the motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Ms. LaPensi, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burning?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
And the consent agenda is adopted. We do not have a fiscal officer here tonight. Does she have a report?
I have a report.
Okay.
Right. For April 1st, so in our checking account balance, we have $451,901. In our checking account balance for our medical payments, we have $156,121.46. In the JED revenue for Hamilton, we've received $193,410.09. In JED revenue received from the city of Fairfield, we've received $62,354.02. So you can see our investment account balance. We have a money market account where we have $14,463,757.67 that we leave in that sweep account. The interest that we earned in March on that 2.95% was $36,191.24. The EMS billing to date is $235,629.62. Our revenue to date is just over $5 million, so we're at the 24% mark. Our expenditures to date, we're at about 30%, right about $7 million, but just keep in mind that at the beginning of the year, we had to make that $4 million transfer. So payments made in March total $945,056.90. And then you can see some of our major fund balances with all total funds being $15,058,662.97. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, thank you.
And
Yeah.
Sorry, before we move on, I know we did the consent agenda, but I don't know if we have any plans to recognize John King for his retirement.
There are planned in the works. Captain King started at Fairfield Township in roughly 1991. Provided 36 years of part-time service to Fairfield Township. His commitment to this township throughout his career, I think, is unmatched. And quite frankly, is probably something we won't see again. He provided 36 years of sacrifice and dedication. And hopefully at the May meeting, we can recognize him for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McAbey, for bringing that up. Okay, we'll move on to Administrator's Report.
And our motions, we have a motion to authorize the administrator to sign an electric aggregation contract with a price not to exceed 10.199 cents per kilowatt hour in a term not to exceed 24 months, which it would end in May with Dynegy. At the last meeting, you guys gave me the permission or authorization to sign a contract with Dynegy, but it was only for 10.1 cents. And by the time that we went out of the gate on the day that we tried to get bids, it had already exceeded that 10.1. So it ended up at 10.199 cents. So if you guys could pass another motion to kind of go back and give me that retroactive authority to sign that contract for that amount.
So moved.
Second?
Any other questions or comments?
Something that I'd like to do at some point is to take a look at if we could ask the providers to give some sort of information about what it would have looked like for people that did use the aggregation versus did not use the aggregation, because that's a concern that I've heard from people, is that, wow, my bill looks so much higher, and is that because of the aggregation, or is that just because of energy prices going up? So I think that that would go a long way in helping to clear that up.
Okay. Well, just keep in mind, too, that Duke's rate is going up June 1st. So right now, I think ours might be a smidge higher than theirs, but in June, theirs will exceed ours.
Okay. And
And-
that's just something I'd like to get that out there so that people understand.
Okay. I'll see what Rich can do.
And they can choose any provider they want.
Yeah, and they can jump on and jump off the plan at any time that they choose to. They don't have to stay on our plan. They can jump off. They can do their own shopping. They can go to the PUCO's website, and on the PUCO's website is listed all of the different energy companies and all their different rates. So they can do their shopping monthly if they want to.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
I thought Mr. Goins was the,
Oh, that's right. He's right.
Oh,
Sorry.
shoot, sorry.
no,
Yes,
that's,
yes,
no, we're
please.
okay with that one.
I had you call the roll for the other one,
I
too.
know.
Sorry.
I just went with it.
Yeah. Do we need to have?
No, that's fine. You all
Okay.
voted, that's-
All right,
I think that's what matters more than anything.
You'll record the vote.
okay.
All right, motion to approve an advance of funds from the general fund 1,000 to the lighting district fund 2401 in the amount of $17,715.06 to pay lighting district electric bills for the month of February. So as you can see, like from the finance report, I don't think I have lighting district on here, but for the first time ever, we didn't have enough money to get through the first quarter of the year. So we had to advance that $17,715.06 to the lighting district to be able to pay the electric bills. So we've been waiting to pay the March bills until that we get our collections for the first half. So I've also talked to Shelley about, we're going to have to increase what we charge the residents, maybe a slight percentage increase to be able to, so that we have enough carryover, for the next time. And then obviously we will pay this back by the end of the year because it is in advance.
That's what I was going to say.
She anticipated your move.
Yes.
Okay, I moved to approve the advance of the funds from the general fund. Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
and we don't want to wait till the end of the year. We want it as soon as there's money in that account.
Gotcha.
Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
that motion is approved. We have the next motion, please.
We have a motion to approve the SWOCA invoice from the second quarter, which covers October through December, which it is in the amount of $20,115.52.
This was an anticipated invoice.
Yeah, we talked about it last year I think we actually approved all of the expenditures from last year, but then we also talked at the very end of last year in December about changing phone systems, which was going to lower our bill. And we're just now working out the logistics of that. So, but obviously this is from the second quarter of last year. So if we don't do the phones until June or July, then obviously we'll have two more quarters that we'll have to pay at that $20,000 rate.
I move to approve the payment to SWOCA.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
In the second quarter, we're on a July 1st.
Yeah, I think they follow the school's calendar.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
that motion is approved. May we have the first resolution, please?
Okay, resolution number 26-40 is a resolution approving payment to Sedgwick in the amount of $9,295, which will be paid from the general fund, $1,000, the motor vehicle license fund, 2011, the police fund, 2081, and the fire fund, 2111.
Motion to adopt.
Second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 26-41 is a resolution declaring a 2017 white Ford Explorer and 3 Dell 7424 rugged extreme laptops as surplus and authorizing and directing the sale of the same items to Metro Parks, Butler County, Ohio for $4,000 as is.
Motion to adopt.
Second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 26-42 is a resolution revising the 2026 permanent appropriations by attached fund totals for fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2026. So as part of the permanent appropriations that we adopted in December, last month, we received law enforcement trust funds in the amount of $2,958.61. So as part of that payment that we receive, we also have to pay the prosecutor's office 25% of those funds received. So we did not budget any revenue or expenditures for that particular fund. So we will need to amend the permanent appropriation so that we have money coming in on the revenue side and then money leaving on the appropriation side. So that accounts for the highlighted items that you see in that, on the permanent appropriation. So that's the Law Enforcement Trust Fund is Fund 2261. So the total purchase services amount will be $739.65. And then I just took the other remaining funds and put them in capital for a total of $2,218.96 for a total of $2,958.61, which accounts for all of those funds. Then we also had to increase the appropriations in the general fund for 2 items, life insurance payments, and when we did the pickleball courts last month. We did not budget enough money in all the funds to pay for life insurance, that we provided no cost to the employees, so we will need to budget that from the general fund. And we did not anticipate doing the pickleball courts, and since we received donations for that, it has to run through our appropriations process. So you will also see in the appropriations in the general fund under 1,000, I have increased the employee benefits portion, so that yellow highlighted area increased to $335,725.20, and then under other is where the pickleball will land for $253,356, which increased our total appropriations in the general fund to $5.7 million, and then our overall appropriations increased to $24,005,831.81. Does anybody have any questions?
Motion to adopt.
Second. Any comments or concerns, questions? Yeah, just again, the pickleball, all the money spent will be reimbursed through grants and/or donations. And it would have been nice if the prosecutor's office just deducted their 25%. It'd be less back and forth,
That's
but
the last paperwork. Yeah.
that's okay. All right, Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
All right, Resolution 26-43 is a resolution authorizing debt service payments to U.S. Bank for repayment of general obligation bonds for projects in the amount of $569,775 for 2026, paid from the Princeton Road TIF, which is Fund 2906. So this just goes back to our conversation we had earlier in the meeting.
Motion to adopt.
Second. So would that be one payment, or we make a payment and notify them the 30-day?
No, we're going to, after today, I'm going to send them a letter on our letterhead, and then saying that we have agreed that we want to go ahead and pay the loan off.
Okay.
And then they will generate how much that we owe them.
Okay.
So it may be less than this $569,775.
Perfect.
We hope so.
Yeah, but I planned for worst-case scenario, being that the payment would be due on June 1st So I just calculated the bond payment, on the principal, and then what we would have owed in interest as of June 1st.
So could we make a payment before May 1st and then even reduce the interest a little bit more?
I don't think they
It's
were.
like a house payment, right? You pay it off.
Yeah, I tried that, and they
Yeah.
told me that I have to send the letter first.
All right. But I mean, like, we're making the June payment early, and
Yeah.
then the payoff. All right. Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
All right, 26-44 is a resolution approving change order number 1 for the curb and gutter repairs from Adlita Construction Company, the amount not to exceed $14,910.45. So this, it's the same kind of thing we had last year where it's kind of difficult. I know when we go to mark the curb and gutters, you would think that you would just be able to saw cut one end and saw cut the other end, and you lift out the middle and you take it away, and nothing happens on the ends. But I guess when you do that, there is some residual that may come out of that curb and gutter area. So when the contractor went in there to take it out, he took out more linear feet than what we had marked and proposed. So does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, so there were several spots that we marked that were like a 2-foot or a 3-foot section. And that's what he said when they came in. One section was notified on our part, so I had a car parked in an area where the 2 sections of curb had sunk and were holding water. So each section of curb is
But total overall, it's like 235 linear feet when you count in Rentschler. So the overall cost will be an additional $14,910.45. Yeah, it's added to the list. Yeah. Oh, we did. Did we not? No? Okay. Okay, well, if they approve it tonight, then you can go ahead and have them do it.
So the 14,000 includes Rensler as
That would
well?
include Rentschler.
Rentschler itself was like $9,000.
Yeah, it's an additional 72 square feet, which gets us to that. We approved $130,663.05. To date, what the contractor wants to bill us is $136,473.50. If we continue on with Rentschler Estates as the bid document says, the approximate total square footage or linear foot would be 163 linear feet, which would cost approximately $9,093.77. So I just added that into the total to come up with that $14,910.45, which still keeps us under budget of what we had proposed in last year's budget for this year. Because we had budgeted around 150,000.
Yeah, because I think when you and I talked, you said it was going to be like another like 4,000, and then it's like 14,000. I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yes, and the reason is
we didn't discuss
because,
Rentschler.
yeah, because, well, I went back and I looked at the original resolution, and we only approved 130. I thought we had approved 136, but no, we were only at 130. So that's what makes it 14,000. But if you don't want to do Rentschler, then that's your decision.
Well,
I'd just rather be ahead.
the thoughts from the board about doing Rensler?
Well, it's
Perfect, better.
$9,000. Do we,
But I mean, we planned on paving that next year. So it would be getting concrete at 2026 prices, be ready for 2027 paving.
Yeah, it's going to be cheaper this year if you do it now.
Trustee McAmey, what's your thoughts?
I need a few more numbers.
I didn't give you enough?
Well, you know, the resolution says an additional amount of 235 linear feet.
Yeah, so it's the 72 plus the 163.
So how many linear feet are we doing altogether?
2,307 plus the 72 plus the 163. Who's got a calculator?
So you add the three numbers together, and it
Yes,
says
sir.
Rentschler is 91 linear feet? That's what it says.
Rentschler's 163 linear feet.
That's not what it says on this attachment here, page 37. Unless it's under a different name.
It includes 3 street names: Rentschler, States Drive, Cumberland Drive, and Conley Bottom.
Oh, I see. So you add those three numbers together.
So it was on our original bid. It's just they didn't make it there yet, and they already went over in Weathered Oaks.
So they've already started the work.
They've already finished all the work in Weathered Oaks, correct? Yeah.
The only thing that was left was in Rentschler Estates.
Right.
And when I reached back out to the guy, because we had discussed it before we talked to him, and
I see.
he emailed me back, and I forwarded that email on to where Rentschler Estates was going to be an additional $9,000.
It's attached to the resolution. If you look at 26-44, it's attached.
And the resolution behind that's the one we already approved last year.
Yes. Yes.
And we budgeted more than 145,000.
Yes, we budgeted 150. So we're still under budget,
Okay, so.
and we'll be ahead.
Okay.
Trustee Harkemaier, how do you feel about this?
Let's move forward.
Okay.
So do we need a motion or do we have one?
No, we don't have one yet.
Make a motion to approve? 2644.
Second? Any further discussion? Mr. Goins, will you call the roll?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Maybe the next resolution, please.
Resolution 26-45, if we could table this one, we did not get the information I needed from the county in time, so we needed to, they did the retrace last week or this week, and just a bid opening. Okay, so, and it was, yeah, that got the lowest bid. Right, but we don't have our dollar amounts. We were hoping to have them by today. So obviously, if we could just table this, and we'll just have to bring it back at the May meeting.
I move to table Resolution 26-45.
Second.
Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
That resolution is tabled. May we have the next resolution, please?
Okay, Resolution 26-46 is a resolution authorizing the administrator to execute all documents necessary for the sale of property located at 2659 Tylersville Road. So we have an interested buyer. We have all the paperwork needed. I believe they're working with Mr. Barbier's firm to finalize all the documentation. We have a title agency. But if we could just go ahead and approve this tonight, and then we'll hopefully close in a week.
I move to adopt Resolution 26-46.
Second?
Any further questions or comments?
This is the old fire station.
And the Public Works Building.
It's the old fire station.
The old fire station and the old Public Works Building. Not something
It's the
new.
old fire station.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. Committee reports. TID, Trustee McAbey.
I have no report.
Okay, EMA, OKI, and Clout. Trustee Harkemaier.
No report. I will be attending a CLOUT meeting. I think it's next Monday.
Okay. Before we move into board comments, can we talk about the June board trustee meeting date? I mentioned back in January that I would be out of town the week of when our regular meeting takes place on the 9th. Could you check your calendars to see if you're available maybe the next Tuesday, which would be the 16th? And then we wouldn't have to move the CIC meeting. Does that work for you, Trustee McAbey, 16th?
Currently, it does.
I'm not available on the 16th.
You're not? Is that just that date?
I'm not
for the week?
available that week.
What about, can we do the prior week, the first week of June?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey, does that work for you?
I'll be out of town.
Be out of town. So I am quite okay with not being here for that meeting. If we want to keep it on the 9th, Trustee Harkemaier, as the vice chair, you could run the meeting. I could watch it online as long as Chuck pushes the right button. I won't be able to comment on it. But
You can, but we just won't be able to hear it.
I mean, unless we want to push it all the way to the 23rd, right? Is that a Tuesday?
Yes, was that a business issue? Could we push it to the 23rd or?
Yeah, the only thing we have so far would be John's thing, and then,
Well, John's thing would be in May.
oh, you're right, you're right. The only thing we would have is the public hearing for the tax budget. Oh, wait, let's see, our July meeting, when is our July meeting?
14th.
Okay, yeah, just as long as it's approved by the 15th. So, yeah, we could do our public hearing for the budget in June and approve it in July.
23rd work for you, Trustee McAbey?
23rd of June.
You, yes? I mean, it would be when we would usually have a second meeting scheduled. If we did 2 meetings. Pretty please?
That's true, it would. So late in the month.
Yeah. That works for you, Trustee Harkemaier, right?
I can do the 23rd.
Sure.
Well, as far as I know now, yes.
Okay.
That's fine. We get,
Block
that
them.
far away and we don't have any business to really take care of because we made 25% cuts in May, we may not want to meet.
So we can do 25% cut in meetings too? No. We're still required to meet once a month, correct?
No requirement, but,
Yeah? I think the taxpayers would like us to.
well, I don't disagree.
Okay, so I make a motion to move our June 9th meeting to June 23rd, and our CIC meeting to take place at 7 PM, and our trustee meeting to take place at 7:07 or whatever,
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Is there a second?
Second?
Any further comments? Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please? Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier.
Yes?
Trustee McAbey.
Yes?
That motion is approved. Okay, board member comments. Trustee McAbey, any comments?
Not at this time.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Can we just take a quick glance at the annual business schedule and see if there's anything that needs added or that we need to pay attention to for May? Or is there anything on here that's,
We have risk insurance, cyber insurance.
It's on here.
does it look good to everybody? Anything we need to add or subtract or?
Yeah.
Okay. I attended the ribbon cutting for the Goodwill last week. It was very well attended. There was a lady who lined up at 4 a.m. so that she could be the first one to get in. So it was very well attended. The line was all the way down to Kohl's, and it was pretty hectic. Lots of deals to be had there, so good thing for Fairfield Township. I think that we should do something, given that this is the nation's 250th. I'd like to give some thought to some ways that we could honor that in July. Low-cost ways, but ways nonetheless, because I think that's a pretty big deal. I think many of us were around during the bicentennial in 1976, back in the day, and I think this is a good opportunity to honor our country in July by doing something of low cost yet. So just please give that some thought. Maybe we can talk about that in an upcoming meeting. That's all I have.
Do I look old enough that I was around in 1976? I guess I was, but I don't think Mr. Goins around?
He probably wasn't. Well, many of us were.
Many of us were, but some of us were not. No, I think that's a great idea. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't have any comments other than I know that we have something coming up for Memorial Day / Armed Services Day. So that will be upcoming.
Do we have a date on that yet?
I think May 16th is, May 15th?
What's
it?
that?
May 15th at
Friday.
5.
It's a Friday? Because we want the schools involved, right?
Yeah.
May 15th. Yeah, last year it was May 16th. Okay. And do we have any updates from the foundation as far as have they secured, I know they were working with a couple companies.
Yeah, I haven't heard any official updates from, sounds like they're pretty confident on getting some funding from our group.
Right. So the other ones, that's the final piece, I believe, is, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Announcements. The county TIRC meeting is Thursday, April 16th, 9:30 a.m. at the County Administration Building. And the Fairfield Coalition Banquet is Monday, April 20th at 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Fairfield Community Arts Building. We have a ribbon cutting on Thursday, April 30th at 3:30 p.m. at the COPFCU, which I think is the Cincinnati
Police Department?
Police Department Credit Union,
Ready.
right? Oh, yeah. It's on Gilmore Road. Election Day is Tuesday, May 5th at, from, I think the polls open at 6:30. And they go until 7 p.m.
Until 7:30.
7:30. Our regular trustee meeting is Tuesday, May 12th at 7 p.m. right here at the Administration Building. And of course, Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day is May 15th at 5 p.m. at Heroes Park right here behind the building. Okay, at this time, I move into executive session pursuant to ORC 121.22G1 to consider the discipline, appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Goins, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding,
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier,
Yes?
McAbey.
Yes.
And that motion is approved. There may or may not be action to follow executive session. And we go into executive session at 8:39 p.m.